Each month, we have leading fund managers, city professionals, and financial journalists join us in the Investor Summit Green Room studio. Here we are. For this first episode of the Investor Summit Green Room podcast, we welcome Thuy Anh Nguyen, and she's Director and Product Specialist at Dragon Capital. Who are Dragon Capital? Dragon Capital are fund managers for the Vietnam Enterprise Investments Ltd fund. VAIL is a closed-end fund listed on the FTSE 250, and they certainly weren't messing around in 2025. The share price rose from 453p in April to a record high of 865p, which, if my sums are right, is an 84% rise. Congratulations, Thuy Anh, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Donald, for that lovely introduction, and thank you for having me here.
So it's a real pleasure to have you in the green room, because I understand you've actually been to the Investor Summit itself. So how was that for you?
Oh, the Investor Summit, it was great. You know, to say that it exceeded my expectation would be an understatement. For me, it actually hit the ball out of the park, because maybe partly because my expectation was low, right? We only knew about it 2 days before the summit, and it was during the summer lull. So my colleague and I went along thinking it's probably going to be very quiet, and but we were there. When we were there, we realized that the program was fantastic. The speakers in the different streams were varied, and we learned useful things from it. And also, I got to meet Annabelle Brodie-Smith there for the first time. What a force she is at the AIC.
A legend, I think she's known as.
A legend, yes.
Legend of the investment trust trade.
Yes.
Annabelle Brodie-Smith, we raise our hats to you.
Absolutely.
Okay. I saw you in Master Investor last April, though, and I've been kicking my shins ever since, because I thought you were very investable in April, and yet I didn't invest. And look, an 84% rise in the year. So what do you put that down to? What was behind that 84% rise?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm sorry that you didn't invest when you wanted to, because you know that Master Investor event was just a few days before Liberation Day, when President Trump announced sweeping reciprocal tariff, very punitive for Vietnam, and that created such a sell-off and a great entry opportunity. So
good entry point.
A good entry point. So I'm sorry that you missed it, but you know, so the market in Vietnam performed really well last year, and VAIL share price has performed outstandingly, like you say, because both net asset value went up, and the discount has tightened as well. So the factors that drove the strong gain of the share price was because the economy was doing very well, right? There was a big program of reforms initiated by the government. The government initiated a program of reforms that is being compared to Đổi Mới 2.1. So Đổi Mới 1.0 was back in 1986. And that was when the economy was moved from a centrally planned economy to a free market economy. And Vietnam was opened up to trading with the rest of the world. And that started a period of high growth, and with Vietnam becoming more and more a manufacturing powerhouse and export hub. And now, almost 40 years later, another sweeping program of reform. If the first Đổi Mới was about allowing free enterprise, this round of reforms is about putting private enterprises at the front and center of the economy. And that has created that's kind of unleashed the animal spirit. And so business and consumer confidence are all up. Corporate earnings was over 20% last year, and that drove a very strong equity market run, and VAIL performed very well.
And VAIL, tell me the investment focus for VAIL. What is it that VAIL actually focuses on?
Yes, so VAIL has been around for 30 years, and it has always so it only invests in Vietnam listed companies, and also some IPO opportunities. So no private equity exposure in the Vail portfolio. What it does is it aims to give investors the opportunity to benefit from a broad-based growth in the economy. So there are over 40 stocks in the Vail portfolio. The biggest sectors that we focus on are banks, residential real estate, and retailing. And those are the sectors that benefit from the growth of the middle class and of the domestic economy.
Which takes me very nicely to the Vietnamese economy. What are the fundamental trends which are driving the Vietnamese economy at the moment?
Yes, so like I touched on earlier, we have very strong government reforms taking place, right? So they are putting the private sector at the front and center of the economy, and they do this, and not just by saying that, but they are putting their money where their mouth is, i.e., they have, since the beginning of this year, first of all, they have embarked on a drive to increase government efficiency by cutting down the number of provinces from 64 to 33, and cutting down the number.
That's radical.
Radical, yes, and cutting down the number of ministries from 19 to 15, and slashing the government workforce by 20%. And all of this was done in less than a year. So, fast and furious, and really show that they mean business. So that is one major theme, a very strong tailwind for the economy. And of course, the underlying long-term structural advantages for Vietnam is still there in terms of demography. We are a populous nation of 100 million people, growing by 1 million every year. The average age is only 32, so very young. In fact, it's a golden population structure where for every dependent in society, you have 2 people in the working age of between 15 to 64 to support that dependent. So the demography is a structural supporting trend. Then there is a very strong infrastructure program going on as well, with a new Long Thanh airport, which is going to be replacing the current airport in Ho Chi Minh City. That's due to open early this year, actually 2026, and in the pipeline is a very exciting project to develop a high-speed railway that will connect the north and the south of Vietnam, that the government aim to get done within 10 years, with the total investment of around $65 billion, and that on its own, this project will add 1% to GDP. So we have reforms, we have demography, we have infrastructure, and alongside that, the export story is still going strong. So we have been Vietnam has been very successful with the export model. Last year, there was a bit of a tariff tantrum, everybody was worried, but this year, but even with the tariff tantrum last year, exports and foreign direct investments still growing strongly, and that trend seems to be continuing this year. And the tailwinds are gathering. So those are the factors that we are looking forward to this year.
So let me jump in there. How does Vail actually play all these fabulous trends that you've just outlined for us?
So Vail invests in the companies that we believe will benefit from this trend, right? So the biggest sectors that we focus on in the portfolio is banking. Of course, banking is the first in Vietnam. The capital market is not as developed as in this country, for example. So bank loans is the main source of credit. We don't have too much private credit or private equity or corporate bonds is still only equivalent to only 10% of GDP, etc. So bank loans is still the kind of the lifeblood of the economy, right? So we focus on banks that benefit from any monetary stimulus that the government wants to put out, and also credit growth is meant to be credit growth reached 20% this year and is targeted at 15% next year. So that's good for the banking sector. Urbanization and changing spending habit of the middle class will also support the banking sector. And talking of urbanization and middle class, it will also support residential real estate, which is our second biggest sector concentration. And
that trend towards urbanization, all these different young people, they'll need somewhere to live as they start developing bigger salaries and so on. And so
exactly, and moving from outskirts or from the provinces into towns, and also the trend of if before we have 3 generations living in the same house, now people want smaller household units, right? So all of that means real demand for residential real estate is out there, right? And then we are also, VAIL also have positions in the retail sector, which is also benefiting from middle class formation and increased spending.
What kind of retailers do you like? Pick one from your portfolio that's a good performer and tell us what that looks like.
Okay, so one of the stocks that have been in the portfolio for a long time is Mobile World. The stock ticker is MWG. So they are a leading retailer of consumer electronics. They have they are very successful in that. And then a few years earlier, they started expanding into grocery retailing. That's a chain called Bách Hóa Xanh. And that focus on the kind of convenience store. So consumers are changing their habits, right? So they used to go to, when I was growing up in Vietnam, we went to the wet market every day and buy fresh food every day just for that day. But now people are busier. They have busy jobs, so they need more convenience stores. So the changing habit, and Bách Hóa Xanh focus on that and answer the needs of that segment. And so they, for the first time last year, that chain started making profit. And now they are expanding on that. So, MWG has been a very good stock in that. First of all, the stock has performed well, and the company is having new direction of travel, expand using their existing expertise in retailing and expand it into areas such as like grocery retailing, where there is a real need. Yes,
innovation.
Yeah.
Innovation is the lifeblood.
Building on their strength into to new businesses.
Fantastic. Now, your NAV, which does surprise me a little bit, is minus 12. So you're running at a 12% discount on NAV. How does that play into 2026? Do you think 2026 is going to be a really good year again? Because, last year was phenomenal. It's very hard to follow a year like 2025. What do you think 2026, what's the outlook going to be like for 2026?
Right. So I'm happy to report that the discount has got even better. Now the discount is only 9%. yesterday. Last time I looked.
Well done.
Yes. Well,
My
well
information is old.
No, well done to our board, because they have been very, Vail's board have been very focused in narrowing the discount. They have been strong on the buybacks to support the share.
Now, did that come about because of activist investors like Saba?
No, it's not because of that.
It's not Saba related, no?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, it's the board has been focused on the discount for the last 2 years now, and this is just the next step that they are taking.
Let me take you to Vietnam being called China plus one. It remains. It's very interesting. That's not sure if people fully understand. It's actually a much cheaper place to manufacture than China.
Yeah.
So therefore, offshoring, as it happens with people like Apple. So rather than Apple actually build a new manufacturing site in China, Apple has looked at Vietnam and chosen to build in Vietnam instead.
Yeah.
So presumably that's a big plus for Vietnam.
Yes, absolutely. So China plus one is this phenomenon where multinationals diversify their supply chain outside of China. And this started in the kind of the early 2010s. But it really accelerated under the first under the first Trump presidency, because he started the trade war against China. So companies realized that they need to diversify faster. So that accelerated the trend of diversifying their manufacturing base outside of China. And Vietnam emerged as a very attractive destination because we are. The manufacturing hub in the north of Vietnam is only about 100 kilometers away from the industrial hub in the south of China. And like you mentioned, the labor cost is a lot cheaper in Vietnam. It's only the manufacturing wages is only 50% in Vietnam is only 50% of that in China. So there's a sizable cost saving there for companies. But on top of it, it's not just about cost, because costs will start to increase as demand increase, right? Mm-hmm. But Vietnam's attraction also lie in a very friendly and a business-friendly government, well-educated workforce.
One of the most highly educated in Southeast Asia, I understand.
Yeah, so the education attainment is quite high, especially for primary and secondary education. We can do better at tertiary education, but that will come.
I'm sure it will. Apple.
Yes.
You don't actually directly invest in Apple. Is that because it's beyond your mandate?
Correct. So Apple is not they don't list in the Vietnam Stock Exchange, right? And Vail only invest in the Vietnam stock market. So even though companies like Apple and Samsung, they have a lot of they manufacture a lot of their stuff in the country and export it from there, but they're not listed in Vietnam. So
tell me who is Vietnamese listed. Tell me what the name of the stock exchange is, and tell me how many companies are listed on the Vietnamese stock exchange, and what sort of spread of sectors there are.
Yeah. Okay. So the Vietnam stock exchange, the Ho Chi Minh Stock Exchange, is the biggest platform in Vietnam. We also have the Hanoi Stock Exchange and Upcom, but Ho Chi Minh Stock Exchange is the biggest one. There are over 1,600 listed companies in Vietnam, and the total market capitalization is nearly $400 billion, which is equivalent to about 80% of GDP. Actually, by far, in a way, the biggest sector amongst listed company is banking, and then residential real estate, and then there's materials and industrials, and then there's consumer durables and retailing.
So forgive my ignorance. I hadn't realized there were 1,600 listed companies in Vietnam. I've only recently understood that there's 4,000 in India, but 1,600 in Vietnam is quite impressive.
It is.
So it's quite a job for you to boil that down to 40.
That's a very good point. So 1,600 listed company. Our investment universe is 100. Is 8. Actually, we have a Dragon top 80 where we cover in great details. And from the 1,600 company, we narrow it down to the top universe of companies that the portfolio managers can choose from.
Those you consider investable, presumably.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Which ones are investable?
Yeah. So Dragon has a big team of research analysts of 18 people based in Ho Chi Minh City, right? So they it's not like they are here in London and they travel there and say, oh, we visit company every year. No, they are there. They live and breathe this companies that they research because they use their products, they experience it in their daily life, and they visit the company on a quarterly basis. So the research capability is second to none.
Well, that's a very interesting point. Dragon Capital, it's got $6 billion under management, and it's much more than just Vail. So very briefly, Dragon Capital are the managers of Vail, but tell me what else Dragon Capital actually do.
Yes, so Dragon Capital, like you say, has almost $6 billion AUM, and that is more than 80% of that is from foreign investors. So Vail is the flagship product. It was, the first product that Dragon Capital managed, and Vail is the biggest because its AUM is £1.5 billion pounds now, right? And then other strategies that Dragon Capital manage include UCITS a strategy. It's called Vietnam Equity UCITS Fund. We also manage segregated managed accounts for some of the most well-known global institutions, sovereign wealth funds. We have Vail, we have UCIT, we have SMA. We also have a small local bond fund, and
culturally, you I've looked at your website. You say that you're culturally different. So what do you actually mean by having a sort of a loose management structure, culturally different? Put that into context for us.
Right. So the culture at Dragon Capital is very collaborative. People are very friendly. We strive for excellence, but we also are very people all seem very patient and willing to help each other, right? And above all, we are committed to bring returns for our investors, but never at the expense of compliance or ethics. And that is a very strong guideline that we follow.
And as you say, most of your investment team are actually, is it based in Vietnam or Singapore? It's Ho Chi Minh City. It's Singapore.
It's all in Ho Chi Minh City.
Okay.
Mainly, we have an office in Hong Kong as well, but it's a small rep office. Dragon have almost 200 people working there, and most of them are in Ho Chi Minh City. And another thing I would add is the people are there. I'm actually a newbie there. I've been there for only less than 2 years, but my colleagues, they've been there 10 years, 15 years, 20 years or longer, and that I think that tells you a bit about the culture there, right?
It does indeed. So how do you come to be here, Thuy Anh? Because you seem to be an outlier. Here you are in London, everybody else is in Ho Chi Minh City.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they're very lucky to have you. That's the first point I'd make. And the second one is, how did you end up coming here?
I wish I could be in Ho Chi Minh City. Actually, it's a lovely office.
Yeah, and how can you say that? The rain and the wet and the cold of London. How could you not just be so happy to be here?
Yeah, well, I'm happy to be here because then I get to talk to you. But so we have a small office here. There are three of us. There's I'm a product specialist, and we have I have a sales colleague and also a compliance colleague here as well.
Always good to have a compliance colleague.
Absolutely, very important. She's the most important person. We have an office here because Vail is listed on the London Stock Exchange, and as I mentioned earlier, a lot of our money that we manage is from global investors. So we have this on the ground resource of the London office to service our clients in London and also in Europe.
And how much of your money comes from UK?
Actually, that's a good question. It's very it's hard to tell, but most of the the Vail money, a lot of it is UK investor
Yes, Vail money. I really meant Vail money. And I briefly met Dominic Scriven, the Dragon chairman,
yes,
who's fantastically friendly and seems to be quite an extraordinary chap. So do you want to tell us a little bit about Dominic?
Yeah, Dominic is a legend. He is. He founded Dragon Capital more than 30 years ago.
He's a very tall gentleman with a ponytail.
Yeah, he's a super tall Englishman.
He's not like any other chairman of a FTSE 250 I've ever met.
So he founded Dragon Capital over 30 years ago, and he to this day he is still completely involved. He's still the heart and the mind of the organization. He in the UK he has been appointed OBE by the late Queen Elizabeth, and in Vietnam. All the investment community know him and respect him. Government officials and regulators consult him on matters to do with the economy, the stock market, and policies. Clients respect him. The Dragon staff are super loyal to him. He is, and also he is not just an investment guru, but he's also a very interesting person with really diversified interests in the arts, in the environment, in conservations. It's not just that. It's not just he's not just a one-man show, but he has built up an organization, and his senior leadership team carry on his ethics and the company ethos. So
his philosophy, very good.
Yeah.
So my final question to you, Thuy Anh. I hope you've enjoyed your time on the sofa today.
Definitely,
the green room
very
sofa.
much.
And my final question: why should Vail be on the watch list of anyone who's interested in the strong GDP growth that Vietnam gives. And to be perfectly frank, emerging economies take for granted. Why Vail? Why now?
Oh, so Vail should definitely be on your watch list or in your portfolio, because with Vail, the trend is your friend, right? Vail is, like you mentioned earlier, Vail did very well last year, and all the factors that drove strong economy and strong market performance still remain into this year. And one thing that I have not mentioned is emerging market upgrade as well for Vietnam, right?
Frontier to emerging market.
Right, exactly. So FTSE Russell announced last September that Vietnam will be reclassified from frontier to emerging market effective September 2026. There will be a review in March. It's subject to a review in March this year, but we have every confidence that Vietnam will satisfy that review and will be officially upgraded in September. So now the announcement was September 2025, and that created a lot of good market sentiments, but the real flows will be happening nearer to September 2026 this year. So that should provide an additional catalyst to everything that we have talked about just now.
Thuy Anh Nguyen, thank you so much for joining me on the Green Room sofa today. It's been a real pleasure having you. It would be lovely if we could see you at the Investor Summit in 2026.
Absolutely.
That would be a joy in itself. Thank you so much. And I hope that Vail in particular have a terrific 2026.
Thank you so much, Donald. Thank you for having me here.
It's a real pleasure, and I look forward to tracking the progress of Vail.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do please take note, the views expressed in the Investor Summit Green Room podcast are for information purposes only, and nothing in this podcast constitutes a financial promotion, investment advice, or indeed personal recommendation. This Investor Summit Green Room podcast is produced by Copia, creators of investor events, video, and websites. If you've enjoyed our monthly podcast, please do subscribe on YouTube or follow us on your own podcast platform. And of course, we'd love to hear from you.